Davidson Nissan Stadium for hosting us this morning. No one reached out today to comment on action items, so we'll move to our next agenda item. And the first item on the agenda is consideration of the minutes from last month's meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any corrections or discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Minutes are approved. The next item on our agenda is our Executive Director's report. Monica.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thank you all for your patience as we were wrapping up the Finance Committee meeting. We understand your time is very valuable. You have the agenda before you. As you can see, the board has several action items coming as recommendations from the Finance Committee. We also have updates from Metro Law Director Wally Dietz, our project managers Ron Gobble and Jim Pashofsky, and of course the Titans. Are there any questions about the agenda? So I'll give you a quick update on the RFP for the authority construction representative. The deadline to submit proposals was this past Tuesday, and 4 proposals were submitted. So we'll continue working with the procurement team to finalize the evaluation committee and schedule time for the evaluation. I also wanted to mention and share that our office is moving again. On January 4th, we're going to move to 2nd Avenue North near Commerce Street. And so we'll be in a building with, I think the public defender has a couple of floors, and then our space will be shared with Human Relations Commission, Internal Audit, who you met this morning, and I think the Beer Board. So we'll be starting the year in a new space. Our office is full of moving crates, and we'll move on to the next place. And then finally, at last month's meeting, we mentioned that we would be scheduling a work session to review design of the stadium. And so this special meeting has been scheduled for January 11th at 10:30. And Valda will send out calendar invites this afternoon. And I think it's going to be very informative. A lot of work obviously has gone into this. And so we hope that you all will be able to attend. Are there any questions? If not, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next, we welcome back Metro Law Director Wally Dietz. He's going to give us an update on the lawsuit and the hearing that occurred at the end of November. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Last time I was here, we filed a lawsuit. And on October 31st, in the Airport Authority case, which has very similar issues to this case, we got a unanimous 3-0 opinion in our favor on all 3 of our constitutional claims. We had 3 constitutional claims, very similar to what we have in the lawsuit over this authority. And the court, with judges from West Tennessee, East Tennessee, and Nashville, agreed unanimously that we were right on the law, that the legislature had violated the Constitution and the Home Rule Amendment, the Local Legislation Clause provision, and the Ripper Bill provision, and the legislature, in passing the legislation, violated the Equal Protection Clause of the Tennessee Constitution because it treated Nashville differently than any other jurisdiction. So we were very encouraged by that. The state did file a notice of appeal on November 29th, so that is pending. It's on a regular schedule until someone moves for expedited treatment. So that appeal has been filed. On the same day, on November 29th, we argued our motion for a temporary injunction in this case. We had a 3-judge panel, 3 judges who had not heard any of our prior cases, but the panel was what lawyers call a hot panel. They were fully prepared. They asked a lot of good questions. They knew what the issues were. and they understood that there was a sense of urgency to getting a ruling from them. I held out some small hope that we might have a ruling by this morning, but the hearing was only 2 weeks ago yesterday, so I'm hopeful we get an opinion by the end of next week. I have some degree of confidence we will get an opinion before the end of the year. So unfortunately, I have nothing definitive to say, and it creates some uncertainty. My advice is you plan to continue on as you are now constituted until the court says otherwise. So I will obviously update your director with any news that we have from the court, and will be available to answer any questions and come back after we get a ruling. Happy to answer any questions now.
Yes.
I don't know what I'm doing here. Good morning. What's the appellate process once we receive this decision? You said potentially by the end of the year. Should we choose to appeal or the state choose to appeal? What are the next steps?
The losing party has 30 days to file a notice of appeal with the Tennessee Court of Appeals, which is the intermediate court of appeals. We have a system of trial courts. We have an intermediate court of appeals, and then above that we have the Supreme Court. There is an automatic right to appeal to the intermediate court of appeals. Then after that, the losing party has to ask permission from the Supreme Court for the Supreme Court to take the case. Much like the U.S. Supreme Court doesn't take every appeal, they pick the ones they want to hear. So the next step for a losing party would be to go to the Tennessee Court of Appeals, and there's a 30-day period to do that.
The Airport Authority litigation and the Metro, the Music City Center, those are ahead of us in the process, correct? And did the state appeal those automatically? They exercise their right to appeal?
Correct. The Attorney General filed a notice of appeal on the 29th day out of the 30-day period. Ironically, it was filed just minutes after we walked out of the courtroom arguing for the injunction in this case. So the normal timetable for a court of appeals case to work its way through with a briefing schedule and a hearing, and then an opinion coming out from the court. It takes many, many months, sometimes a year, maybe even potentially a little more. The Metro Airport Authority Board is meeting. I was at their meeting yesterday. So the Metro appointed board is meeting, and no court has instructed them to cease and desist, stop what they are doing. So the Metro board is in power and acting in the ordinary course. And that's what, if we win the temporary injunction, that's what this board will do, assuming no one asks for a stay or for some different result. If we win the injunction, this board should continue to meet as it has planned all along.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, Mr. Dietz, if you don't hear anything back on this board by January 1, and the existing law that the state has written, that goes into effect 1 January. So that nulls the 6 people who have to go off the board. So we would be out by then.
Right. If the court does not rule, the law goes into effect January 1.
Okay.
That's why I'm hopeful that the court will rule before January 1, because all 3 judges understood there was a timing issue, and that it was important for everybody, for the state, for Metro, for all of you, to know what the state of the law is, at least at the trial court level, before the end of the year. I can't obviously control or dictate the court schedule, but I do have reason to believe that we will know by December 31st. Hopefully sooner.
Well, thank you for that update, Director Dietz, and we'll look forward to hearing more information.
Thank you. We'll follow up.
Appreciate it. Next, we'll hear from the Finance Committee, Chair Harrison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Finance Committee did meet this morning at 9:30. We had a short agenda, but a lot of discussion, which kind of ran us over appointed time. But we heard from Kyle Clayton from the Predators, who provided a review of the fiscal year 23 Bridgestone Arena Camp. Brad Bullion from Disaster LLC provided an update on the Bridgestone Arena flood plan repairs. And we considered a resolution approving the audit of the MLS Stadium construction project recommendations. Lauren Riley with the Metro Audit walked us through the recommendations. Staff, we were asked to provide a cost of compliance. But if there are no additional questions for Lauren, the Finance Committee recommends approval. Deferral, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. So for consideration of a resolution approving the Metro internal recommendation included within the MLS soccer stadium.
And we're recommending deferral.
Okay, so there's a motion to defer. Is there a second? Second. Any further discussion? If not, we will vote to defer. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. And we also considered a resolution approving the delegation of authority for the approval of CapEx reimbursement for the Nissan Stadium. The Finance Committee recommends approval with the treasurer providing approval for the board. Providing approval for the board.
Okay.
So we'll move for its adoption.
Thank you. There is a motion to approve resolution delegating authority to receive, review, and approve reimbursement requests to the board treasurer. Second. It's been seconded. Any discussion, any questions?
Yes. Am I able to vote on that?
Yes.
As treasurer, yes, you may vote. Any other questions or comments before we vote? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. The motion carries.
Thank you. We also considered a resolution approving and adopting a proposed procurement policy. Director Gill shared the details. Ms. Cheryl Lane also provided information concerning this policy. The Finance Committee recommends approval, and I move for its adoption.
Okay. There's a motion to approve the recommendation from the Finance Committee to adopt a resolution approving and adopting a proposed procurement policy by the Sports Authority. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay. There's been a motion and a second. Discussion.
Yes, I do have some discussion. I think, and I guess my question would be why we truthfully need this right now. I wasn't privy. I have a lot of questions. Let me put it that way. And I think a lot of them were probably already addressed in the Finance Committee meeting. I hate to continue to badger this if they were already asked or to ask duplicate questions, but I'm just concerned as to why we need it. I'm also concerned why this wasn't brought to the full board as opposed to just the Finance Committee. I'm just a little bit confused if I can have some explanation on all of it. And I also don't want to belabor the point. I know we're running late already. So if just somehow we could all address this.
Okay.
I have a comment. I'm not on the Finance Committee either. I was in the committee. I echo, there's a lot of questions. I think we should pause and have much more conversation if we're proposing a policy change at this body. And so I would recommend and support a deferral of this action as well. And let's keep this conversation going. There's not a reason for us to act hastily on it, and that's my preference.
Madam Chair, I recommended that policy because the board was, and I've used this word before, in my opinion, bamboozled by the Titans organization with reference to the RFPs. My intent all along has been that all of the businesses in Nashville have an opportunity to express an interest and submit their qualifications for the work that's proposed for this new stadium project. And because this RFP process did not go through the Metro Procurement Office, it was not disseminated to all of the businesses in Nashville who would be interested, many of whom may have been interested and qualified to express their interest. That didn't happen, which in effect excluded many of the businesses. So what happened in the process was the businesses that were selected, and this is my opinion only, were selected not in a transparent way. In addition, there was no protest procedure included in the means for protest included in the RFP, which meant that if any of the submitters on those two projects or contracts felt aggrieved, there was no opportunity for them to express themselves to do so. And that is why I am proposing this. Had it gone through the procurement office, those conditions would have been in the RFPs, and this issue would not have come up. So I think it's only fair that we have a policy that will make all RFPs, RFQs for projects through which Metro Sports Authority funds will be spent, that they are fair and open for the public.
Thank you.
I have a comment.
Yes, Director.
I think this is very worthwhile considering. I mean, if there is an improvement that we can make to our process to more broadly make aware the business community of opportunities to do business with Metro and the Sports Authority, I'm all for that. The fact that we haven't had any complaints does, beg the question, and to Jad's statement, is this necessary right now? The other question that I have is, how does this apply to existing agreements? In the summary, it says it's for all future RFPs, but I don't know, and I'm not a lawyer, but I don't see where that is reflected in the actual resolution. I'm apt to agree with Director Adkins that I think this is very worthwhile considering. And again, we always endeavor to try and make this process better and more accessible, but I feel like a deferral is the right move.
Thank you. Additional comments?
Madam Chair, thank you. I'm one of the ones who, in finance, supported this. My main reason for supporting this is that we heard from the procurement, and they have no problem with this. It won't impose any type of burden on them as far as that's concerned in fine-tuning this resolution. They're willing to work with us on any items that we feel like we need to address concerning this resolution. I have no problem with it. I don't see why we can't go ahead and pass this today.
So, Michelle, do you have any comments that you'd like to add to this? Some of these members were not there to hear. I think some of the document talks about policy that is carried out through Metro, that might be a duplication, but just to give your perspective would be helpful. We appreciate it. Thank you.
There it is. Okay. I would like to say to the full body, as I said to the Finance Committee, that I do recognize and respect the independence of this body, and also to note that when requested to review this policy, I did that through a lens of understanding that it's based upon any request that this body would make of the procurement division. So we buy again for 52 different departments, semi-autonomous boards and commissions, and we conduct that procurement process consistent with the procurement code, state law, of course, and the procurement regulations. And there's existent today specific details regarding the protest process in our procurement code and regulations. So that's really baked into our process, and so would not impose any kind of additional burden that way. There are some details in the policy regarding the composition of evaluation committees in terms of numbers and et cetera, that are more delineated than what's currently in the procurement regulations, but that basically provide detailed guidance, if you will, for any kind of construction and design RFP that you all would request that we handle on your behalf, that we would have to take into consideration. So from our perspective, we work daily with departments who make recommendations for the composition of evaluation committees. We ensure that there's no conflict. We ensure that the expertise is there and that there's a specific interest in what's being bought before we agree to who comprises that evaluation committee. And so we would engage in that same process only with the specific numbers that are required here in this policy being present, as well as the specific industry expertise. So from that perspective, it's not a huge burden for us. Of course, there is a decision that this body would have to make, and we would work consistent with whatever decision that you make, understanding that you have the authority to request or not. We've done both. We bought the soccer stadium construction for you. We did not procure, Nissan, or I guess it is going to be Nissan Stadium now, the new one. And that is at the discretion of this body. So whatever your request is of us, we would engage it consistent with our procedures.
Awesome. Thank you. Any questions?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Since this was directed at the process that we used for the stadium, what effect will this, if we pass this today, what effect will this have on the stadium that we know now we're fixing to build?
It's probably a Josh question.
I'm sorry, Director Deering. I was reading, so I missed the question.
What are you reading?
Reading the Robert Rules of Orders in case the question comes up.
You're good.
I'm wondering if we pass this motion today, this bill today, what effect does that have on the Titan Stadium going forward with their building of the new stadium today?
Or any of our existing
Or
development
any.
agreements.
It should not. So there would be prospective in application. So obviously the agreements have been executed for all the current projects in place, and so you're not able to amend that through adopting this policy. So anything that is in this policy that would apply would be prospective from this day forward if you choose to adopt.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Lane. So there is a recommendation.
Madam Chair, I have one more question. Could we hear from someone from the Titans here about this process today?
Sure. Thank you. Just please state your name and your role, sir.
Good morning. I'm John Cooper with the law firm Holland and Knight, outside counsel to the Titans on the stadium project and the procurement. If you'll recall, the development agreement that you approved included a procurement procedure and policy as an exhibit. And that basically said the Titans are going to follow the Metro Procurement Code to the greatest extent practical. I have been working with them throughout the process. I believe that they have complied with state law and the Metro Procurement Code. I understand some may differ, but in my opinion, there has not been any violation of the code. The protest right exists. I mean, that's in the procurement code. So we do not feel like we deviated from the procurement code in any material way.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may, the right to a protest was not included in the RFP for either of those contracts.
But it's in the procurement code.
But the individuals who submitted their statement of qualifications probably did not know that. In fact, I would go as far as to say that any company who may have read this RFP when it was first issued would have noticed that there was no weighted value for the evaluation criteria and that there was no protest procedure in there, and therefore may have said, this thing is already set up and I'm not going to submit. I'm not going to waste my time. So I can say from that, I would think from that you may not necessarily, it's a possibility that you may not have gotten the best contractor for the project. If it's not in there, if people don't see it, they don't know that there's an opportunity.
Any other comments? Thank you for those remarks. So we are, and you can correct me, I think we have a recommendation on the floor. Has it been seconded?
It was.
It was seconded. And we've had discussion. So our first order will be to vote on the recommendation. Several of you have mentioned deferment. That would be a separate motion if this one fails. So we will start with the recommendation from the Finance Committee. All of those in favor of moving forward
No.
and accepting this policy, please signify first by saying aye.
Aye.
Can we get a count on that? Thank you. Is that 4? Okay. All of those who oppose, please signify by saying nay.
Nay.
2, 3, 4, 5. The motion fails. Thank you for your discussion, your input, and all of the interest. Appreciate that. Anything else from the Finance Committee?
Madam Chair, there are no further questions concerning any of the resolutions. That concludes our agenda.
Thank you. I'll ask our legal counsel, am I good with that?
You are, Madam Chair, yes.
Thank you. I saw you reading. At this time, we'll have Ron Gobble and Jim Koshofsky with the project management report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're glad to be here today. To remind everybody, GHP and CPS are acting program managers working in a role similar to what we did on Geodis Park. And this report reflects that. I think you've heard about the procurement process that's going to get a permanent program manager or representative. Main things we've been working on over the last month or so is we've been supporting the new administration as they're getting oriented into the project. We've expanded our team. We brought in Bard Civil Associates to help with our civil reviews, facility diagnostics to help with our energy solutions, and Moody Nolan, an architectural firm, to help with our evaluation of the stadium design and itself. And that process is underway. We're reviewing the 50% design development set that has been submitted by the Titans. And that's roughly over 2,000 drawings and almost 4,000 documents total. It's quite a massive project, massive building, and our teams are working with the Titans design teams to monitor what they're doing and making sure it's consistent with Metro standards and consistent with industry standards for best practices for this project. They are having workshops monthly with close to 100 professionals. They typically happen at either in Nashville or Atlanta. So we're trying to attend those. They have many sessions going on at the same time. And those sessions are, so we're having a lot of people, a lot of different meetings. I guess that's one way to put it. We're also working with the East Bank team to coordinate things around the stadium and make sure that things flow well in and out through the new facility, and that process is going well. The 100% design development package, which will be submitted to us to review, which will be a volume, even larger documents. That'll be toward the end of January. Their Titans are scheduled to start work in February with earthwork. So that process on civil engineering is going kind of ahead of the rest of it. And they'll be talking, I think, a little bit more about that later on today. So I think in all, Jim, you got anything to add?
No, not really. There's, as Ron got to kind of give an overview, but there's a lot going on, a lot of interaction. We're attending the OAC meetings, the meetings with BAO and the Titans and TBA. Those are going very well. We're reviewing the bid package schedule, which are very aggressive, but it's going pretty smooth. And so far, it's all going pretty well. Just really fast and a lot at one time. So that's about it.
Okay. Any questions for Jim or Rod?
I have one question.
Yes.
Ron, you said that earthwork begins in February. Wasn't there a relocation of a gas main? Has that already taken place?
That's in the process. That relocation is outside the footprint of the stadium.
Right.
So I don't know directly where that stands, but I do know that that's being worked on.
So then in February, the earthwork you're referring to would be the demolition of the east side parking lots in the beginning of.
Yeah, they'll basically, pending your approval of the 50% design development drawings, they have already gone through the permitting process right now, and it'll be focused on the footprint of the stadium in that lot. So the fences will go up, and I think they can talk more about specific schedules, but that's going to be January, March.
Yeah, it'll be like in February. I think that's when they're planning the trailer complex and those kind of things.
What complex?
The trailer complex for all everybody. But they can give you more details. That's kind of the way the schedule's laying out right now.
Understood. Thank you. No more questions.
Any other questions? No, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Next on our agenda is opportunity for us to ask our facility partners if you have specific questions. We're going to hear from the Titans next, but any of the partners that you have questions about? Any related activities? If not, I'd like to recognize Adolfo Birch to give the Titans monthly stadium progress report. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you for giving us. Thank you for giving us an opportunity to speak to you today. It's been a big week for us. We've come off what we thought was an outstanding game on Monday. Yes, I thought we should take a moment to applaud that. But more importantly, I think it's been a big week for the city with the tornadoes and the resulting efforts on the part of the community to help support our neighbors who are affected by that. So we should apologize for our attire today. That's in part because we are joining with Hands on Nashville and a number of other groups today to do cleanup following this meeting. So we needed to dress appropriately for that. Before we get sort of started, I do want to say one thing in reference to the earlier agenda item, and that is we want to be clear that the Titans are extremely proud of the process, of the transparency, and of the result of the bid process that we utilized in connection with the contracts that were being mentioned. That's very important to us. We think the result speaks for itself, but not only the result, the process itself was really rigorous and invited the broadest group of folks who could participate to be able to try to do that. And we think the result is reflective of that. That said, we're always open to looking at ways to improve upon that process. And we have in the past, we will going forward, listen to any and all input on ways that it could be helped and try to respond accordingly. So to get to sort of I thought we had do we have a clicker thing? All right. So to get to the sort of meat of the update, a lot of this is continuation of prior updates, but I think there are a couple of things that we want to point out. You have the monthly report that has, much more detail on a lot of the activities that have been going on, but here are some of the highlights. On the office hours, we talked about those previously, but I do want to sort of reinforce that we've had 2 additional ones in November. I think Ron was mentioning a few of those, and there are many, but we had 2 in November, one on the exterior skin and the enclosures, one on the MEP and fire at AV and that sort of thing on the 28th. Both of those were well attended. One had, I believe, 60 or so. The other had close to 100 attendees. And obviously those represent opportunities to network, opportunities to learn and understand more about the project in an effort to increase potential participation. On the infrastructure end, there was some discussion about the current work. The 4 sewer main, that is substantially complete. And then the gas line, that is in progress. And I think we expect that to be done probably by the end of the month. So that you may have seen some of that as you were coming in because there had to be some diversion, street diversion to deal with that. On the RFP side, and I promise you I will not report on the RPPs, apparently, but the RFPs, we have 3 in motion now. The demo, which is a takedown of the current stadium, the third-party testing and inspection, which is the QC peer review portion we've talked about a fair amount, and then the fall arrest, which is the safety lines for the construction workers on the exterior. Those are all in motion. We expect the responses due on each varied times between the first part of January and I think February for the demo. The earthwork, there's been some discussion about that. We have applied for the permits to dig, to do the grading, and we do believe that to start in March, contingent on receipt of those permits and obviously the approval from the authority on the design documents. With respect to participation, we continue to work with the Office of Business Assistance on our DBE goals, on our outreach. As you've heard, that's a fairly involved group with a number of stakeholders, and it seems to be going relatively well. We are meeting a lot, but those meetings have been very productive, and we are, I think, making a lot of progress in sort of coming to a streamlined way to be able to do what we need to do from all parties. party standpoint. The communications, I think I've probably mentioned briefly, just to say that we've been making an extra effort to try to make sure that stakeholders are informed, particularly about logistics matters, things that impact traffic or other items that may be of interest or importance to the varying folks who need to understand them. And so I hope, as an update, that this is something that will come as no surprise to any of you or to Metro or to NDOT or to TDOT, et cetera, to be able to know what's going on and how that the different aspects may impact their constituents or their respective offices. So hopefully that is the case, but if anyone has any concerns on that standpoint, we'd certainly like to hear those. This is the meat of what we want to kind of talk about today, and I see now that I can't see it very well, so it will be a little difficult for me to describe, but this is what we are calling Titanstown. This is the trailer complex that will serve as the hub and home base for many of the stakeholders. Thank you. Stakeholders on the project. It is what I think is probably going to be the most visible sign of early progress on the stadium construction. And it's going to be a working space for all of the partners associated, including the authority, including Metro, to be able to come together and help facilitate the progress and the movement on the stadium project. In terms of its sort of details and size, it's going to be 56 trailers, accounting for more than 40,000 square feet of office space. I am told that it will take up roughly 5 football fields in size. And, I think importantly for this purpose, it's going to be designed to be collaborative with a lot of conference space, a lot of open space to ensure that all of the various partners are able to share information, share plans, and make sure that everyone is fully informed and on the same page. Perhaps the biggest point or the most unique feature of the Titanstown complex will be its emphasis on workforce development. One of the keys to us was to have a robust workforce development initiative and program involved, and this will include a specific trailer or set of trailers dedicated to both our One Community and the workforce development programs. So it's going to include its own classrooms, some of which will be digital, some of which will be experiential. It will have conference rooms associated with it. It will have a separate entry point so that folks can come in who are not part of the construction project currently. They'll be able to access it to get job training, to get applications, to submit resumes, to do the sorts of things that are going to be part of the workforce development effort. And, we, from our end, we are fairly confident that this is a first of a kind operation. The way it's being set up on site in this way, to our knowledge, has not really been done in Nashville before. So we're very excited to see what that outcome can be with that dedicated set of resources. We also will have safety training, will be part of it with dedicated space to ensure safety, both from a physical standpoint, but also from a security standpoint with badging and other sort of operations. In honor of the holidays, we decided to bake you this pie. And this pie is just a reflection of our spend to date. It is in its nascent stages, as you would know, because it's largely focused on the design phase at this point. But it also includes, just as a point of reference, infrastructure that we discussed change, but I think I probably would just broadly say that you should understand that a lot of the payments are on lag based on the payment process. So the spend to date is a little behind in terms of what, ultimately has been invoiced. And I want to say this probably reflects the spend through September in most cases, I think is probably the fair way to say it. And then finally, or close to finally, this is just the project team directory, and there's nothing that has changed since the last report, but I think we just wanted to get in the habit of posting that so that you have it for reference, and also that we have the ability to ensure that when changes are made, you will be able to see about those. So hopefully, we'll start to see some changes coming as those RFPs are coming back, but we wanted to include it for reference at the time. So unless anyone has any questions, I'd like to turn it over to our president, Burke Nyhill, to make a few remarks as well.
Thank you. Burke Nyhill, president and CEO of Tennessee Titans and Nissan Stadium. I just have three things that I want to cover, but in the interest of time, I'll try to go as quickly as I can through these things. I do also want to address the procurement issue, and not in the context of contracts or legal technicalities. My grandfather was an electrician, and he raised 9 kids as an electrician. And I can remember driving around with him around our city and looking at some of the iconic buildings in our city. And he would explain that he had worked on that building. And he'd say, "That's my building. That's your grandpa's building." And he was proud to have been a part of building his city. And it made me proud to be his grandson. And it made me proud of my city to know that he was a part of it. And I think about those things when we talk about this project. And when I see this building and we refer to it as the People's House, it means dozens of things. But it also means there are people in this city who are going to be raising their families in part based on this project. They're going to get a head start on learning a trade or growing their business so that they can work on other iconic projects in the future of this city. It means their legacy, their grandchildren will be proud that their grandparents have worked on buildings like that. There hasn't been a meeting that I've been a part of where we talk about the participation of local and diverse vendors on this project where I haven't gotten a little bit emotional about the idea that this is not something where we are going to just follow contracts. We are going to do the right thing. We are going to be creative. We are going to be thoughtful, and we are going to do the right thing. I just promise you, that's our attitude. That's our spirit. That's our intent. And to Adolfo's point, I expect that our processes will continue to evolve, but I promise you we are worthy of your trust. With that, I introduced the new Nissan Stadium. We are very, very pleased that Nissan has agreed to carry over naming rights to the new Nissan Stadium. A lot of times these naming rights partnerships can be transactional in nature, and the beauty of having had a runway of 8 years with Nissan, there was an initial phase where we were getting to know each other, and over the 8 years we've become more. We've become friends, and we understand Nissan very well. We understand what they're looking for in a naming rights partnership, and it's the same things that we want in that relationship. They've got 11,000 employees, in this city, and they want them to be proud of the fact that that Nissan is here, and they're important to this city. They've invested in Middle Tennessee and will continue to do so in the same way that the Titans will. One of the big aspects of the naming rights partnership is their want to partner with us on a major One Community initiative that we haven't announced yet, but we're excited for them to come along with us in the One Community journey. It's a 20-year partnership, and we're just thrilled. Second thing I want to touch on is Mr. Football Awards, and then a little wrinkle to that as well. So we hosted the Mr. Football Awards last week. It's one of the things that it's something that our entire staff just feels so proud to be able to do. It's in some ways the ultimate representation of the Titans, where we get to amplify the communities around Tennessee, amplify football, and amplify the young athletes who have excited and invigorated their communities. Particularly pleased this year that the 4A Mr. Football Award winner was Keyshawn Tarleton from Pearl Cone. And in addition to being Mr. Football, he's also a state champion because Pearl Cone won the 4A state championship. We're just so proud of that team and Coach Bernetti. Also very, very pleased to announce this morning from this microphone that Coach Bernetti is the Coach of the Year. That we award Coach of the Year every year, and he is well deserving. He's the winningest coach in Metro Public Schools history, and we're so pleased to be able to honor him in that way. Last point is that this was another really successful year at Nissan Stadium. We have taken it upon ourselves to see this building through the lens of a stewardship of delivering to the city things far beyond football events. And I'm really proud of our team, Bob Flynn, Ashley Stokely, and others who have really gone out of their way to have great relationships with the promoters, to have a great fan experience. And it's really proving out that the biggest events want to be here in this stadium. This year we had over 900,000 people come through the doors of Nissan Stadium. Unbelievably, that is the third highest attendance in any stadium in the world, behind only SoFi Stadium and a stadium in Mexico. So we continue to take this responsibility seriously of getting people through this building. I've had conversations with the Nashville Convention Visitors. We'll call it the NCVC. How's that? They've done some research on the biggest weekends in Nashville from a hotel perspective, from a local economic impact perspective, and the 10 biggest weekends for Nashville this last year were all Nissan Stadium concert weekends. So we're thrilled to be able to fill that role for the city and plan to continue to do so again next year, and of course even more so in a new building in 2027.
I have a question. What's in context? What was last year, or generally, where do we track total attendance each year?
Yeah, if you go back, let's say 5 or 6 years, this number would have been probably a third of that. Last year was in this range, and we're getting to the place where, given that it's an outdoor stadium, we're getting to this being about the peak. So this is. Relative to other venues around the world, this is the third highest attendance, and we're going to try to stay up there, maybe even move up in the order.
Awesome. That's impressive. We've come a long way, and I can't imagine how many more zeros are going to be in a few years. So with the new Dome Stadium. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
I just want to say, Madam Chair, it goes without saying that we all miss Frank Wycheck.
Yes.
What a great.
Yes, sir. I was actually looking over at the wall earlier today, and the mural of the Music City Miracle, and saw his name up there.
Yeah.
We plan to honor him this weekend at the game.
Yes.
I do have a question with reference to the project team that you had, the Tennessee Titans Stadium project team. And, of course, this is from my perspective. I see that there are opportunities for other businesses to participate. And I'd like to know if there's room here for other businesses to participate. along with some of the ones that you have listed?
Well, I think we discussed this the last time, or the last meeting, and, the project team is set. So I think from that standpoint, there won't be additional opportunities to round out or change that part of the team. But I do think, when we're talking about all of the other, the other available opportunities through the course of both the rest of the design and the construction piece, there are an innumerable amount of opportunities available.
I just didn't want to pass up an opportunity to ask. Thank you.
Fair enough.
Thank you. Thank you all. Appreciate it. So, this concludes our agenda, and it concludes another year. So I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you to the staff, to Metro Finance, our facility partners, all of you for what you do throughout the course of the year. I especially want to say thank you to this authority who have worked hard. You've been flexible through good times, exciting times, and sometimes challenging times. So we thank you for that. And since we're waiting to see the outcome of the courts and how our board will reflect that and what we'll look like in January, we wanted to take this time to also celebrate some of our authority directors who will be up for reappointment or have expiring terms. So we want to celebrate you today. And so there's cake in the back of the room, and we hope that you'll hang out long enough to have a slice of that cake with us. Our next meeting will be a stadium design presentation on Thursday, January 11th here at Nissan Stadium. We will also meet at Geodis Park on January 18th for our regular monthly meeting. And so I will entertain any final questions or discussion. And if not, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Second? All right, everybody have a happy holidays. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.